You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals so you can learn, live, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr.D, and Mehdi.
For those who didn't tune into the part one, when I was 40, I was classified as obese, and that really tapped into my self-identity and self-esteem issues. The people who stick with me when I am completely honest with them like that, they are the people who then actually buckle down and do the work. And those clients are incredibly rewarding, because when they get there, it does change their life. And then they realize how strong they actually are. And, they start to believe in themselves. This is what I love about coaching somebody to a weight loss transformation, or even just getting on the stage. They start to believe in themselves. And I'm actually really glad to see during this time there is actually a lot of attention being paid to mental health. I'm so glad for that, because it just doesn't get talked about enough, and it's so critical.
All this and more in today's episode.
How do you fight depression? So I think that we're just going to have a casual conversation, and we won't let Mehdi be quiet like he says, because that will never happen.
Yeah.
I'll throw in a little background. This is part 2 of the interview with Sarah. The first interview was talking about how she's an all-around fitness badass and how she's won 21 world championships in bodybuilding, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and now with Dr. D, part 2, talking about depression. So it's awesome to have you back on, Sarah. Thank you for coming back on.
Like I said, you're absolutely welcome. I'm delighted to be of service if I possibly can to your listeners.
Mm-hmm. So I think your story has a lot, because now we know with the coronavirus, people are fighting anxiety, depression. We're on lockdown. I don't know if Mehdi told you, we are on curfew. So although all these measures are very important, and I think it saved us a lot since we started earlier, but now you get to the point where people are like, okay, we thought it was 2 weeks. Now they're saying another 2 weeks. All businesses are closed. The clinic is closed, so I have to do a lot of work on teletherapy, dealing with people's anxiety. I'm also faculty at the university here. So we haven't been in school actually since the last week of February. So even students feeling anxious about, oh my God, what is this going to do about what's my future? What is the semester going to look like? Here you are diagnosed with depression, or you felt like you're depressed. And you realize that it seems to me like you take things that are maybe seen as negative and you turn it around. So I just want to know what helped you. Maybe this will help our listeners.
Okay. Do you want me just to give you a sort of quick high-level overview for your listeners? Would that just be helpful just to recap slightly?
Of course.
I'll give you the 30,000 feet version. So for those who didn't tune into the part one, when I was 40, I was classified as obese, and that really tapped into my self-identity and self-esteem issues. My whole life had been fit and sporty. So, my whole identity was tied up with being a fit person. So when I was told that I wasn't, it was a huge blow to my self-esteem. And as I was newly single out of a 10-year relationship at 40, all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm 40, fat and frumpy. Who's going to love me ever again? And I just felt completely worthless. So setting a goal to climb a mountain, I really gave me some direction and some focus, something positive to focus on. And it was whilst getting fit to climb the mountain, that I lost 25 kilos without dieting, just through simple lifestyle habits and behavior changes. But after the mountain climb, and that was the Mount Kilimanjaro mountain climb, because I'd so focused on my health and fitness, I'd really neglected all other aspects of my life. And there was a series of 6 very bizarre sort of incidents that all happened within about an 8-week period over Christmas, including like a tax audit, a flood, everything wiped out, lost my entire circle of friends. When I got to the doctors with about the lump under my armpit, that's when I was diagnosed with depression. I had all of this compounding stuff going on, just sort of hitting me from left field, like one after the other, bang, 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 bang. And it just tipped me over into depression, as it turns out. What I'd realized, and this is something that and I have to say, it was the most awful experience ever. I mean, I'm not making this up. I couldn't make this up, because this is just real. I went to the psychologist, and it was like this grey office with sort of grey peeling on the walls. The reception must have been about 90. And then when I got into the psychologist's office, there was this lady wearing this hand-knitted purple cardigan, and she was wearing sensible, stretchy green nylon trousers with sensible, comfortable shoes. And there was like this grey painting on the wall. There was a crack up the wall. There was this metal filing cabinet in the cupboard. And there was these two old-fashioned wingback chairs either side of this little round table with a lace doily on it. And I got into this room and I was like, how I didn't laugh, I don't know. But it just hit home, I was like, wow, this is what I've got to go through to cure myself. This is the official recommended way of curing yourself of depression. I was like, I can't deal with this. I can't be here. I can't be that person. So I resolved pretty much right there that if anyone was going to fix me, it was going to be me. I've done a lot of personal development anyway, and a lot of what you learn in personal development is taking responsibility for your actions. And it's a concept called living above the line. I'm sure you're familiar with that, but it's taking responsibility for your actions, owning your actions, owning your choices in life, and therefore owning the consequences of those choices. And what I realized was that by focusing so much on my health and fitness, which was a choice, I'd neglected all other aspects of my life. And then I realized that because I'd made those choices that had landed me in this situation, I could choose other things. I had the ability to make other choices that would get me out of it. And that's what I decided is like, if anyone was going to fix me, it was going to be me. But the trouble was, I'll say, because everything had fallen apart, I really didn't have anything to lean on. I'm going to do a shout out for a very, very good friend of mine. Somehow intuited I was going through a difficult time, and he called me out of the blue and said, Sarah, I'm feeling that you're not okay. What's going on? And bless him, he rang me every single day for 2 weeks just to make sure I was still here. And I'm eternally grateful for my friend, and I'm blessed that I did actually have the opportunity to repay it, because he also went through depression, and he's a high level professor in Sydney. He's very high up in disaster management globally. So, he's also a very high level person. And I'm blessed that I was able to repay him for that. But like I say, having decided that I was going to fix myself, what I needed to do is I needed something positive to focus on. It was a total wreck. I'd lost all my friends. And my house was a mess because it had flooded. I'd lost all my furniture. I had nothing. I was in a desperately awful situation right then. So the only thing that was positive at that time was my fitness. And it was kind of weird. By focusing so much on my fitness, I got into the situation. But ironically, my fitness was the only thing that I could find that was positive. And therefore, I focused on it again to pull myself out of the situation. But one thing that's, I guess, very common when you go through depression is the sense of overwhelm. Like your brain is just full, non-stop, 24/7 of just noise and churning thoughts. It's incredibly difficult. And, I knew I couldn't do this by myself. I knew I needed help. Now, I'm an incredibly strong person. I have been my whole life. I'm very, very independent. And one thing I pride myself on is my strength. And reaching out for help for me is incredibly difficult at the best of times, let alone when I'm going through depression. That's why I'm eternally grateful for my friend, because he came to me and helped me. I could not reach out. And like I say, that's something I found incredibly difficult. But him having done that showed me what I also needed to do, which was I did need to reach out. I couldn't do this by myself because my head was just full of mess. So I actually hired a personal trainer. I couldn't afford a personal trainer, whatever like that. I could not afford a personal trainer, but it's like, I have to do this because I don't know what else to do. And there were definitely weeks when I was existing off baked beans and toast because that's all I could afford to eat, just so I could afford this personal trainer. Because that 1 hour a week I had with the personal trainer, when somebody else did the thinking for me, meant, I could walk through the gym doors, that all of the noise and stuff just stopped. I could put down the load. I could take the load off my shoulders, and somebody else did the thinking for me. I just had to show up and do. And that space, that 1 hour space a week, was all I needed to give me the space I needed to start processing what was going on and try and come up with solutions. And this is where I attribute my resilience to building up my resilience. It was when I went through this that I became so resilient. Like I say, 1 hour a week is not much when you've got all of this stuff going on, but it was just enough to get me through to the next stage and the next week and the next week. And what also helped was the fact that because I was working with a personal trainer, so for the first time in my life, I actually had somebody giving me a structured workout program. Within about 3 weeks, I was looking in even better shape and I was even fitter than when I'd climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. But it was a revelation. I was working for an hour a week with this guy. He gave me a program and I was getting such amazing results that it became a positive motivator. It just sucked me in. Within a couple of weeks, I was at the gym 7 days a week, and he was always happy to stop me training because I'd just fallen in love with this new style of training. This was the first time I'd actually done lifted weights. I mean, it wasn't bodybuilding at that time, but I was actually lifting weights and I'd never done that. So it was new and it was exciting. So the fact that it was new and exciting and somebody else was doing the thinking became an incredibly positive factor. And again, by focusing on that and having that 1 hour of space, it allowed me to also focus on making sure that my eating stayed on point. And that's another critical factor. I kept my eating on point. Because I developed these lifestyle habits when I lost the weight without dieting, I actually had the healthy lifestyle still in place, even when I was going through depression. So I had these habits and behaviors and structures and routines that I stuck to, even though I was going through depression. And that absolutely helped keep me on track. So really, it was the combination of, like I say, owning my own situation and realizing that I could make other choices, better choices that would help me, that really set me out on this path to recovery.
So when you went to the psychologist, you didn't go back again?
No. I mean, this is the thing. I went to the doctor.
What happened to the knitted fans?
I don't know.
I promise you, my office does not look like that at all. I have a purple chair that everyone loves in my room, but it's my chair.
I
don't know what happened there.
I couldn't make that up. It was so stereotypically awful
and so depressing.
It was utterly depressing. Even the plastic pot plant looked dead. It really was awful. The doctor gave me a prescription for antidepressants. And I guess I actually had a good friend who was going through depression, and I'd seen what antidepressants had done to her. And that was another decision. It's like, if this is the cure, I'm not taking this, because the cure is probably actually worse than the problem. Because a good friend of mine, she'd been going through depression for the previous 2 years. And I was like, and she'd gone through the whole sort of psychologist, drug route, and she was still depressed. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that, because the cure seems to be worse than the problem. There has to be another way.
Well, I mean, you're a living proof of what we always tell our patients is that, besides psychotherapy, I think it's important to have good health and good nutrition and exercise. And absolutely. I feel like people to this day, we've improved a little bit, but people to this day, they don't really grasp the concept that how is my eating and my exercise going to really help my brain? People still are not really educated in how to strengthen your immune system, which is something we really need right now. They're not really good at understanding that the mind and body really work together. And for me, even trying to convince people, no, you got to, even now, okay, you got to be on routine. But doc, what am I waking up for? I'm like, because you need to wake up, you need to eat, you need a routine, even though we don't have anything to do. You have to put yourself in structure. So I think what you're trying to say is that you decided that I'm going to put myself in some sort of a routine, which is exercising, dieting, and then that's going to help. But do you feel like you were able to do that because you had resilience, and the resilience because you've already been independent? Or do you feel that anyone could do what you've done?
No, I believe because I'd done a lot of personal development work prior to this, and because I'd done that transformation where I developed those routines and those healthy routines, that definitely, I feel, gave me an advantage because it gave me something familiar that I could fall back on. There's a level of comfort and security in familiarity and things that are familiar. So falling back on that, because I'd been so focused on my diet being really, really healthy and my fitness being on point, because I've spent 2 years doing that, there's a level of familiarity and comfort in focusing back on that. And that's really where my resilience comes from, is having that fallback routine that was actually already in place.
But do you think that people can, what you're talking about is it sounds like from your background also, maybe even in childhood, you've learned to be self-disciplined. But one of the things I've noticed living in this part of the world is I feel like, I don't know, they don't have self-discipline, especially the new generation, A lot of them don't have self-discipline.
Yeah.
And I feel like what you're talking about, in order for you to be able to admit that you're depressed, to find a health and diet and exercise, to be really determined, requires self-discipline.
It does, but really it came from a deep-seated need within myself. The motivation came from within. I needed to do this for myself. I wasn't doing it for anybody else. I needed to do this for myself. So this is the thing. When you try, I coach people and, I do weight loss transformation coaching and stuff like that. You can't teach somebody to change if they don't want to change. Mm-hmm. It has to come from within. And again, my need to pull myself out of depression came from my need to remain the fit person, because that's what my whole self-identity was. So when I was obese and I did the transformation, that came from a need to be a fit person, because that's who I was in my head. When I was going into the depression, then my healthy habits and routines had started to slide and I'd started to go backwards. So I had started to put on weight again. And I guess that was my biggest fear. It's like, oh my God, I've worked so hard to get myself from this obese person to this fit person. I couldn't bear the concept of me going backwards. So again, it came from this need to be the fit person. So it was definitely tied up with my self-identity.
Yeah, I truly agree with that. I think that people have, like you were saying earlier, people have to take responsibility. I think you took responsibility and you said, I'm going to do this for myself.
That's right.
And no,
that's right. A lot of people, they blame external circumstances for where they are. Now, I could have done that. Like my house flooded. I could have blamed the weather. I could have blamed the poor building design. I had a tax audit. I could have blamed the tax office. I lost all my friends. I could have blamed them for the situation I was being in. But it was all me. I could have blamed all sorts of things, but it wasn't. It was me. And that's what I realized. So yes, I guess there was an element of discipline in it. But at that stage, I wasn't in the bodybuilding. So I've definitely become more disciplined since I got into the bodybuilding. And as I said in part 1, I attribute the discipline that I learned in the bodybuilding world and applying it back in my normal life to being able to become this high performance person at such a high level, both in my sport and in the corporate world. So by taking the discipline from my sport and applying it back to real life, I've definitely achieved more. But at this particular point, I guess the structures came from an internal need.
Definitely, it's an internal need. But I always struggle with trying to teach our clients on that, because they constantly tell you, well, I want to do this. I want to get out of my depression, but I don't know how, doc. I don't know how. And whenever you're trying to tell them that you have to make a commitment to yourself, you have to be able to realize that. But then we go back to that self-love. A lot of them are like, I don't know if they really love themselves enough to be able to work that hard.
Look, I'm glad you mentioned that, because those were the exact words that I was going to say. What I did it out of, it was self-love. That is exactly what it is. And look, I'm going to refer to my father here. Unfortunately, he passed away. He had all sorts of health issues and he never looked after his health throughout his whole life. He could have changed his outcomes so much more easily if only he'd taken responsibility for his health in terms of his eating and stuff like that. But he was always looking for, a quick fix. Oh, the doctors will give me a pill. Oh, they'll do an operation. They'll do another heart bypass or something like that. He was always looking for a quick fix. And he was always looking for the experts to fix him. He never was able to look within. And that's probably what you experience with your clients too.
A lot.
They're looking, and I experience it with my weight loss clients. They're looking for me to fix them, but I can't until they want to fix themselves.
But they tell you genuinely are wanting to fix them. Someone says, well, I'm coming to see you, so I'm genuinely wanting to fix myself.
That's right.
So
how many other people have they also been to genuinely wanting to fix themselves?
Yeah, because they truly believe I genuinely want to help myself. I'm here. But then they don't understand, like in this population, since I've been here for 15 years, I don't know, it might not be that different in the US either, but here medication is number one. I can tell you that. And now even with doing teletherapy, see, the clinic closed. So a lot of the psychiatrists can't dispense medication now. And if they want their medication, they either have it or they have to go to the psych hospital to do it. So now they're feeling like teletherapy or therapy is important because that's the only thing they have. Beside that, they can go get their medication. So a lot of them are on medication, but they might be running out.
Yeah.
So now they're understanding I really need. And the other day, just this person, I don't know how even we got to talk to this. It's like, no, this person has come to see me once or twice, 3 times, but then continues to want to just be medication. And now they're realizing I really need someone to talk to. Well, because people are not educated to understand. I'm not going to say medication is good or bad, because as a psychologist, I do believe a lot of disorders that require medication. We're talking about bipolar, schizophrenia.
Yeah.
There are a lot of medication that you really need. I mean, a lot of disorders need medication. Maybe yours was just an adjustment disorder, or maybe yours was just the beginning stages of depression. So you were able to fight.
It wasn't clinical depression.
Yes,
I mean, the doctor did say, this is, I guess, early onset depression, if you like. So I guess I caught it early. The medical research, doctors are starting to call the gut the second brain. The link between gut health and depression is irrefutable. The link between, for example, low vitamin D levels and depression is also irrefutable. Now, these are all things that can be fixed through paying attention to your nutrition.
And what you're eating, that's true.
And what you're eating, absolutely. No, I mean, I'm a nutritional healer. I have nutritional healing programs, one of which is a menopause program specifically for menopause people.
I read that.
Yeah, and look, the first thing I do for the first 3 days, I've got this beautiful blend of Ayurvedic and Japanese nutrition. It's a 3-day phase that is specifically designed to heal their gut. Now, one of the very classic symptoms of menopause, of course, is depression. And look, I've had some spectacular results with this. I've had people lose 2 kilograms in 3 days. I've had people report that they're all of a sudden, for the first time in months or even years, they had a decent night's sleep. They wake up feeling energetic and they're just feeling more, they're absolutely feeling optimistic. And they're like, wow, so they haven't completely alleviated their depression, but they're just starting to feel optimistic, which is something they haven't felt for a while. And it's because I'm focusing on healing their gut. And then, of course, that feeds into balancing hormones and, just stabilizing their hormonal levels and sort of serotonin levels as well. So, yeah, I mean, the link between nutrition and depression is irrefutable.
And it's true. And I think that a lot of people that are going through menopause don't really understand that a lot of your symptoms, it just reminded me, like my sister was only 2 years older than me, went through menopause much earlier. I'm 50 and I haven't gone through anything or some changes, but maybe because I exercise, I diet, I listen to Mahdi and he tells me what I'm supposed to do.
I totally shifted out, by the way, ladies. Like I'm menopause, that's on me. I'm quiet right now.
But maybe you just want to sort of go find go la 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 la. Go find some music.
Well, no, he's married. Your wife is going to go through menopause sometime in her life, so at least you'll be prepared to what she needs to do.
That's
but his
right.
life,
eventually,
you'll be able to say,
that's when I'm going to go climb a mountain and run away.
Yeah, mate, there's some excellent 30-day treks in Bhutan that you can do. I highly recommend them.
Well, but that is one of the reasons why women, when they hit, some people, like my sister hit it at 35, I think. I can't remember how early. My mom went through menopause very early. So I was always worried that, oh my God, I don't want this. And I could see like my sister, she started early, maybe 35 or 40. I can't remember. But also she was overweight. She never exercised. Now she has diabetes. So whenever I used to say to her, not even as a psychologist, I didn't know anything about menopause because I wasn't going through it. So I didn't understand. So I was like, how about losing weight? How about the way you are exercising? And she used to get mad at me. One time, a long time ago, she had asked me when she was first going through it, she asked me if I can bring her something for menopause, like hormonal pills. And then I said to her, so I brought her remedies of how to lose weight and, like these remedies, natural substance. And she got mad. She's like, I don't need this. And I'm like, every research says that probably menopause has something to do with your weight. It has. At that time, I didn't educate myself as much as I know now since I'm going there. But I was like, must be something to do with the weight and what you're eating.
Yeah.
And plus being diabetic and plus being overweight. She's lost a lot of weight now. But the idea is that this must have contributed to why she was depressed. She was depressed for a long time.
But it's the reaction that was key there. It's like, well, can't you just give me a pill?
Yes.
It's the same in the UK. It's the same here in Australia. A lot of people's first impulse is, well, give me a drug that fixes it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not prepared to own the situation, take responsibility for the situation, and help themselves.
Exactly. Help yourself. Again, we go back to, for me, it's realizing that at one time I was overweight myself. And then I woke up and I realized, is this what life is going to be like? I'm just going to be overweight. I went to the doctor. I'd hurt my back and he's like, you're obese. You got to lose weight. At that time, I don't look obese because I carry my weight well. It's in my hips. In this part of the world, they love that. So
that's right. That's a
I was like, what the hell? I'm not obese. Is one of my good friends. And he's like, Julianne, I'm sorry, but you are obese. I'm not obese. What are you talking about? He's like, you're going to have a heart problem with your back and you might have to have back injury. And I was like, just because I fell? He's like, yep. And so I was like in denial of that. And then I realized, is life is going to be like this? I never even exercised that much. It wasn't that important. Now, diet was always important, but I cheated so much. Yeah. And I love chocolate. And I was like, when I had my babies, my first one, I gained 100 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like eating candy bar. I was like, never really been, even though you're educated, but people don't really educate you a lot on this nutritional factors. If you have a doctor that's not saying, well, you got to wait. But I did. And I could see like a lot of my clients, they wake up and they're like, okay, is this what life is going to be about? And that's why they get depressed because they realize that they are not living the life that they thought they should live.
Yeah.
But the hard work, give me a medication, give me something that will make it go, give me a diet pill so I can lose very quickly. And so, I think with you, it's like you keep on saying, it's like self-determination.
Yeah.
But you work with a lot of people. So finally, when they tell you, give us a pill, give us something quick, how do you get them to be motivated? How do I get this person who says, please teach me how to be motivated? What do I say?
Do you know, I don't think because
or give me something to help me with self-love. Like the other day, it's like one woman on teletherapy, she's like, what is self-love? How can I love myself? And then I was like, they're looking for a menu.
Yeah, look, I suspect that, you're probably in a very different situation. I imagine people would come to you sort of going, how can I love myself? For me, people come to me because they're going, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
But I still get clients who come to me and they've been to lots and lots and lots of other people. And I'm saying, I just have to reinforce it. I can't do this for you. I guess I'm fairly blunt, actually. Once I've sort of learned through them, I'll help anybody as much as I can. But once it gets to the point where I realize, actually, they're just looking for a quick fix, then I do actually have to be quite, and I am very honest with them. I'm saying, look, I can't fix you. You have to fix yourself. And I will tell them exactly that. It's like, if you want to lose this weight, you have to put the work in. There is no quick fix. And I'm very honest. And yes, it loses me clients. But, I'm okay with that because it means they're not my people. The people who stick with me when I am completely honest with them like that, they are the people who then actually buckle down and do the work. And those clients are incredibly rewarding because when they get there, it does change their life. And then they realize how strong they actually are. And, they start to believe in themselves. This is what I love about coaching somebody to a weight loss transformation or even just getting on stage. They start to believe in themselves and just watching them grow in confidence as they hit little goals and then hit bigger goals and then hit bigger goals. That's the process that I love. And that's what I try and get. I try and get everybody to at least some little goals, some little wins, because those start to feed into it. And then they start to realize that they can do it. I guess I break everything down into really bite-sized chunks so that we can get some quick wins on the board. Because a lot of people come to me, they go, oh, I want to lose 20 kilos. But they're looking at this whole thing. They're looking at this big thing. And because they're looking at this big thing, it seems too big and difficult for them. So I break it down into tiny little chunks. It's like, well, how about we just start with you drinking 5 glasses of water a day? Oh, I can do that. Well, that sounds easy. Yes, it is easy. Okay, you go and do that. And then we might go, well, how about having a piece of fruit twice a day? Oh, that doesn't sound very difficult. Okay, I'll do that. So I actually break it down into such tiny little chunks that it removes the barrier that I think a lot of people feel when they come to you with this big, huge problem. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because they're looking at a big, huge problem, the whole thing seems overwhelming. I mean, that was the thing. When I was in the depression, everything seemed impossible. Getting out of bed, choosing what to wear. I was like, what do I wear? It was a big, huge decision. Just choosing what to wear every day. So that's why I say when I was working with the personal trainer and I had that space, the hour of space where I didn't have to think, all of a sudden, little drip by drip, solutions started to come to me. And because it was drip by drip, it was a little bit at a time. And I guess I was breaking down this overwhelm tiny bits at a time. I think that's what helped me get me through. So that's what I do with my particularly challenging clients. I break things down into very manageable pieces. And then once they start to realize that this big thing is not actually as difficult as they thought, they start to gain a sense of control. And once they gain this sense of control, it becomes motivating for them. And then and that's how we drag this internal motivation out.
Yeah, I think that's, very well said, to be honest. It's very true. I mean, all the clients I work with, they are overwhelmed with their feelings. They're confused about what's happening. I mean, right now, people are like losing their job or they're not getting a salary or, so they're bombarded by many things. And, the world just looks very, very overwhelming. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It does. I work with my company, my team, I've been coaching them to not buy into this disaster kind of thinking. Yes, we're in a very difficult time. And yes, it's incredibly unusual. None of us have ever been here. What I'm coaching them to avoid is these emotive words, such as, I see on the television people going, it's a disaster, it's a catastrophe, it's a crisis. The retail sector is a bloodbath. These are incredibly emotive words and it's incredibly emotive language. And if you're just getting the source of your information is just from the generic media, they're using these very, very emotive phrases. And I'm encouraging everybody, particularly my team at work and anybody who I deal with, to not buy into these emotive phrases and to choose sources of information that literally just present the cold, hard facts. Here's a fact. Here's another fact. Here's another fact. And there's none of this emotiveness around it. Because once you start taking the emotions out of it, you can start to look at things objectively. And this is what I'm coach people and encourage people to do right now, is to try and find this objectivity in the information that's coming out so that it doesn't seem as overwhelming and that the world is not actually ending.
It's true, but sometimes it's hard because there are...
Oh, it's very difficult, absolutely.
Because you're bombarded by the social media and, just yesterday, one of my clients was saying, every time a WhatsApp, and we use a lot of WhatsApp, and someone's sending you some voice message from somebody saying, I don't want to scare you, but this is, and, I've been telling everyone, please do not open any of these, try to limit your social media, limit what information, just look through the fact of World Health Organization or here, the Ministry of Health. So try to narrow it only to this, but because they're feeling like you said earlier, is like everyone wants a sense of control.
And that's exactly where I guess a lot of people's levels of anxiety is coming from because they don't have that sense of control. So another thing, and just like when I was going through depression, what gave me comfort and a sense of control was routine. And this is what I'm encouraging, like, again, everybody I'm coming in contact with, I'm encouraging them, just like you, to go and get your information from the World Health Organization and government health websites, reputable sources of information. And then I'm also encouraging them to, even though we're all completely out of routine and we're all working from home now, which is very unusual and it's difficult because the kids are all on school holiday, is to try and establish some kind of routine. So you still get up at the same time every day. You still have the shower and brush your teeth at the same time every day. You have breakfast at the same time every day. Then you sit down at your computer at the same time every day. You have lunch at the same time. Develop some kind of routine that you can control so that you develop this sense of comfort from it. And once you've got that level of sense of comfort and sense of control from a routine, then again, you actually buy yourself space, mental capacity to stress less.
It's very true. I think even a lot of research now, and everybody, talks about the sense of routine. It's being able to get up, being able to wake up the same time, sleep the same time. If you have kids, like, it's so amazing. A lot of parents don't even have routine for their kids. Like, you wake up, we eat breakfast at this time, we sit at the computer at this time, the kids are working, you help them or you do your own work at home. And people really minimize the need for routine. Like, you have to have an exercise regime. You have to be able to walk a little bit. I mean, our curfew is 5 p.m. here. So I like encouraging people.
Gosh, that's harsh, actually.
It is harsh. It is. Yeah, I hope they extend it, but that's not as harsh as not having a salon. Okay, our salons are closed. This is my drama.
I'm unmuting myself for that because I think a salon being closed is the least of our worries right now.
That has caused me more
The gyms are closed. The gyms are closed.
Exactly.
I had to build a home gym.
The gyms are closed. I mean, this is what I was saying to people. It's like, oh my, if they close the gyms and the cafes, my life is over.
They're all closed here.
I do all my coaching. I meet all my coaching clients in cafes. And I go to the gym, I'm like, oh my God, my life is ended. Yes, most things are closed. Food shops can still do sort of takeaways and stuff, and we're still allowed to get out and do sort of exercising or by yourself, or if you're a part of a couple and stuff like that. But we're definitely encouraged not to go out unless we have to, but we don't have a 5 o'clock curfew yet, thank goodness.
I mean, but the thing is that even with 5 o'clock, you can walk in your neighborhood. The other day I saw a couple walking. I mean, in my neighborhood, it's like, and then as long as you continue this social distancing, you see people like doing it, and it's fine. And these are the people that are really valuing or getting online and reading about exercising every day. Like you have to have that in your program and your routine. Yep. But people like get into this like laziness, like, okay, they're staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning because they want to sleep in so the day can pass. You can only go to the groceries here. I mean, there's not much more to go. So the idea is that, so they feel like, okay, I don't need groceries. What can I do? This sense of like, I'll just watch TV. They build a routine for themselves, but it's the unhealthy routine.
It's not such a good routine. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And like I say, this is what I've been coaching my team at work is stay in your Monday to Friday routine as much as you possibly can, because that will actually, like I say, it'll give you a sense of control and a level of comfort.
No, it's true. And it gives you a sense of accomplishment, Yeah. I mean, it's like I wake up a certain time, I eat breakfast a certain time. Like for me, it's like, it does give me a sense of accomplishment. How many podcast interviews did I do? Did I write on my research paper today? My kids finished their assignment. For me, it is. And I trying to teach my kids, because I truly believe that you have to teach structure now for your kids and teach them self-discipline, because it's not genetic. Self-discipline comes from what you've seen from your environment, from your family, and be able to put something to make them feel that we have a routine. And they, even though they're complaining, Mom, why can't I sleep in? I have a 15-year-old who thinks like life is just sleeping in all the time. I don't allow that. Like we don't sleep in. We have to do these things. And I'm trying to teach him that I think a lot of people didn't learn self-discipline. A lot of people don't know that they gotta, because for a while, even in psychiatric world, medication was the answer. You just go, you get medicated, you work on your problem sometimes. But other than that, they learned the sense of like, give me a quick fix. I want to lose weight, like give me a diet pill. Everything. Pharmaceutical company lived and thrived on this. So people have this idea that, okay, well, and then they're surprised. A lot of my clients are surprised. Okay, so I've taken this for 6 months, some people even a year, and the problem still exists. Well, because you were sleeping too much, the medication side effect. They had this high expectation that this is going to solve my problem. And now they're realizing, well, it didn't solve my problem.
It didn't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. But, I have a question. When did your depression got better? When did you realize that's it? You're done with your depression?
Well, look, here's the thing. I think once you've been through depression, I'm not sure you entirely ever get rid of it. Even after, I guess I pulled myself, and I would say it probably took me about 3 months to sort of kind of turn myself around and realize that I was actually in a positive phase, and I sort of started setting some goals. But there's definitely been, the following year I had to have double shoulder surgery. My whole body fell apart, so I couldn't do the gym and the training, this thing that I'd sort of fallen in love with. So there was definitely a couple of months when I literally couldn't even pick up a teaspoon because my body was so broken and I could barely walk. That there was definitely an episode then when I was very, very down. Now, whether you call that depression or not, I don't know. An ongoing sense of unhappiness. So I'm not sure that you ever entirely get rid of it, but you develop strategies to cope with it or deal with it. And even in this current situation, I'm incredibly optimistic about it, actually. Like I say, because I've developed this resilience, I've practiced this resilience and built up this resilience to change. In fact, I thrive on change. I still have moments during some days when I literally just sort of kind of fall in a heap on the sofa and go, oh God, what's the point of anything? Is that depression? I don't know. It's definitely a down moment. But I guess because I've done all this personal development and coaching training, I have the ability to catch myself in those moments and refocus and pull myself out of it again. So that's a very interesting question. I'm not sure that you ever get rid of it. I think it's probably kind of in a way a bit like maybe an addiction. I don't think people ever 100%, you're never free of it really, because you always have to be mindful of it, but you develop strategies to deal with it.
Do you think the gym is a good strategy to deal with it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's precisely the point. The gym became my absolute happy space. It really did become my happy space. It was kind of weird. It's like the second that I stepped through the gym door, it's literally like the weight fell off my shoulders and I literally became 2 inches taller because it was a sense of relief from the overwhelm. And then the second I stepped out of the gym, oh my God, there it all was again. I picked all up all of the mess and stuff, and there was my head buzzing around again. So yeah, absolutely, the gym became my happy space.
So it sounds like everyone has to identify a happy place, but you were saying something very important, and
positive.
That's right. Or even like you talked about your support, your friends. That's a support system, I think.
Yeah, look, like I say, I'm very, very blessed to have him as a friend. And I've actually referred to the gym in this situation when I was going through depression. I referred to the gym as my life raft in a stormy sea. And I clung to that life raft with every ounce of my strength until we got through the storm.
No, I like the idea of a happy place, actually, because I think, yes, people do need to find a happy place and to identify it, like you've identified with the gym being a place where you didn't have to think. And that someone else was doing the thinking for you. So it kind of gave you a relief. And as you said, most people that are suffering from depression, they are overwhelmed with their emotions. They're overwhelmed with poor decision making. Even shower is a challenge, to be honest.
Absolutely.
I have some clients haven't taken a shower for a week, to be honest, because it's a lot of work. And you are exhausted. And that's exactly right. Because they're exhausted, they're thinking, how can I go to gym? I don't really have much. And for me, to be honest, I don't say gym. You guys are gym people. I have a trainer that comes to my little gym in the complex. But I tell people, you don't need a fancy gym. You can just start walking or taking the stairs in the house or parking the car far away and walking.
Yep.
Like you were saying.
I mean, that's the thing. You can break things down into simple things again. So like your client who hasn't taken a shower, could they... Let's say they had a shower once a week. Could they work towards doing it twice a week? That's a start. That's a step in the right direction. And then once they've done 2, could they do it 3 times a week? And then could they do it 4 times? Focus on something that they can absolutely control and make it manageable for them and very doable. It's like, okay, don't worry about anything else. Let's just work on doing a shower twice a week. Can you do that? And see if you can get their buy-in. If you can get their buy-in and they'll go, great. Yes, I think I can do that. Brilliant. And then the next week, how did you go with your 2 showers a week? Well, I did it. So, okay, how do you feel about trying 3 times a week now? Okay, well, we've done 2. Yes, maybe I can do it 3 times a week now. But here's the thing. If they don't manage to do it 3 times a week, it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, that's fine. Let's try and, it's like, did you do the 2 times a week? And they said, yes, brilliant. We've still made progress, but maybe we're taking the progress too quickly for them. Again, it's about calibrating their level of ability to move forward. But this is what I do with a lot of my weight loss clients, is I find something that's so easy for them to do that when they do it, they go, oh, that was actually, I did it. Hey, yay me. I did it. And then we find the next little thing that they can do. And again, yay me. And then they start getting on a roll. These tiny little wins start adding up. So like I say, with your client with the shower, that's exactly what I would start with. It's like, okay, can you do twice a week? Is that something you feel you could work towards? Again, it's in their control.
Yeah, and exactly right. And that's what we do now. They take shower Saturdays and Wednesdays.
Brilliant.
But
I haven't showered in 2 days. I'm just throwing that out there. All right, I'm in quarantine. I stink. My wife is putting up with it. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm joking. But it's funny because
okay. So how do you feel about building up a shower every day?
Yeah, really.
No, I'm joking.
Is that something you feel that you could do?
I shower every day, but now these days it's like. And I was telling Dr.D about this the other day. I haven't been putting deodorant on just because, you don't really need it if you're not leaving the house. I mean, but I wouldn't say it's fun.
I disagree with that. You need it.
Maybe we should put your wife on. Maybe we should put your wife on and ask her that one.
Yeah, really. I'm calling her to see if this is true.
Right.
She probably doesn't want to hurt your feeling, right?
I know,
you really
right?
need that deodorant during the day. Exactly.
No, I was standing around my mother-in-law the other day, and I was like, oh, man, I stink. I got to go jump in the shower. But I mean, I'm swimming 3 times a day, and it's like, it's just the deodorant factor is like the least of my worries at the moment, besides, sanitizing my hands and making sure everything's clean. And so, I mean, yeah, but sorry, I'll let you guys get back at it. I just had to throw that in
actually,
there.
that's another thing that I sort of, I guess, not counsel, but mentor my team on is just because we're in this different situation where we're all locked down and stuff, don't let your personal habits slide. This is not an excuse to let your personal habits slide, because once one thing slides, everything slides. And this is one thing I tell people about taking responsibility. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you start letting your personal habits slide, then you'll start letting everything slide, and then you will end up in a mess. And if you've got kids as well, if they see that sliding, guess what example you're setting to your kids? Mm-hmm. You're setting an example that it's okay to not have this sense of self and self-pride. It's actually.
No, it's true. And that's one of the things that I've been doing. I mean, we still wake up early in the morning. My wife trains at 11. Yeah. I train in the afternoon. And for us, it's really important that DJ sees us doing that every day, continuing with our training, continuing to work hard.
Absolutely.
Haya still reads. I'm more of the podcaster. So even, just now DJ was knocking on the door and he's like, Daddy, I want to podcast with you. That's why I've had it on mute, because he's running around outside trying to get in the room. So, I mean, routine's very important, especially for the kids, and you're right. I mean, Sarah, you're 100% right.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
It's really important to keep showing them that self-discipline throughout of waking up early and having that routine. It's really important.
No, and it's teaching DJ also how to deal with stress. I mean, right now, the kids know that we are in a pandemic crisis, even if DJ is only 5. My kids know, but they're not feeling it because I'm not walking around being that anxious. Or we talk about it, and I'm like you with your staff. It's like, okay, so I think it's good for our kids. I mean, we go back to that resilience, and I feel like I work a lot with the psychological immune system and how people don't tap into it. And then we only tap into it when we're very high stress, like people that go through war or trauma or some sort of a crisis in their life. And I always tell my students, so now when I go back to seeing them, I'm going to remind them. I always say to my students that we all need to go through some crisis in our life, to be honest. Absolutely. We all need it. Oh, look, and so they always look at you like, Dr. D, why are you wishing us like this? And I'm like, because if you didn't have a crisis, then you will never tap into your psychological immune system that's going to help you activate, just like your your physical immune system only gets activated when we have a virus, when we have an infection, when we have the flu. And so we need it for the psychological immune system. And now I hope they all have tapped into some sort of, which is resiliency, what we're talking about.
It is, absolutely. I mean, your psychological immune system is your resilience.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. This particular situation is going to teach a hell of a lot of people who've become so accustomed to just having everything at their fingertips. It's going to teach them what is genuinely important right now. What is genuinely important right now? Like, I don't know, you've got sort of young girls who sort of drop dead because they didn't get their nails done. Not important right now. Communication is what is absolutely important. It's more critical than ever. And what I'm seeing is an increased level of far greater and higher quality communication. Actually, globally, I mean, people think of, I guess, the sort of politicians and stuff, what I'm finding particularly here in Australia is the fact that all of our politicians, doesn't matter what side of the parties you're on or what you think of them as people or their policies, they're all standing up and being leaders. They're all communicating incredibly well and doing their best to be as transparent and as often as possible, as much as possible, to try and give people a level of reassurance again. I do agree with you that going through something difficult such as this, it really does show you what is important in life.
And I think, we've lost the track. I mean, I think Earth is trying to teach us. I mean, when people say, why do we have this? I think Earth needs to teach us a lesson. I think we lost the sense of our priorities. We were also busy trying to either work, trying to make money. We didn't really value some of the small things that we need to value now. I mean, I feel like the Earth has pushed the pause button, seriously, because we needed that pause. We needed to start thinking about Earth and pollution, and we needed to think about our mental health, and we needed to put priorities together. And I'm like you, I'm optimistic because I feel like it's pushing people. I hope that people are using this time to really understand what are my priorities. My fear is that we are creatures of habit. And, after 1 month or 2 months, people go back to fumigate the earth and really treat it bad. And
look, it's going to be interesting on the other side. Will people just revert straight back to where we were before? I hope not. I hope people have learned to really slow down and appreciate the small things in life. I mean, being stuck in your home all day, every day, I'm making a point of getting out on my bike because just the only exercise I can do right now. It's not really for exercise. I mean, I'm not cycling madly to exercise, but I'm just cycling just to be outside and appreciate the sun and the grass and the trees and just seeing other people going about their exercise. I'm really using this time to appreciate, I guess, nature and the fact that I am alive and I am healthy and I do have the use of my body and all of these kind of things. It's incredibly important. And again, I think that level of gratitude and appreciation is what helps keep me positive and optimistic.
I mean, that is great. It's amazing. And I think you're right. I think some people are going to go to the habit because they haven't learned anything. And I think some other people are really going to make some changes. I just hope the bigger percentage will start evaluating what life is like and what does money and working means for us. And, there are going to be other people that are starting from the bottom. And then so I think it's going to help us a lot.
Do you think this is going to create more distance between people? I mean, I'm throwing this question at both of you guys, because that's something me and Hay were talking about last night. And I think that it might create more of a social distance from the perspective of right now, we're so connected, but so disconnected at the same time with social media.
We're physically disconnected, but I think I'm seeing, some people are finding some incredibly inventive ways to connect socially, even though we're physically distant, and using these social media apps for good. So there are a lot of people who are using these social media apps for good and connecting in ways that we wouldn't do if we weren't in this situation. So there is a level of inventiveness and creativity coming out in people's communications. We're very lucky that we've got the tools to be able to do that. Could you imagine if we had this 20 years ago before the internet? We would be physically and socially distant because we don't have these amazing tools. Now that we've got these amazing tools where we can share, people are, and they're getting incredibly creative about how they're doing it. I mean, we've got Frock Up Friday. So people who used to go to work in their suits and stuff like that, now they're all sitting at home in their pajamas. They're deliberately doing virtual Friday night drinks dressed up in their business suits or dressed up in their evening wear. Mm-hmm. So you've got some fun things happening.
Creativity. That's nice.
So it is lovely to see this level of creativity starting to come through as well.
That's true. So now before we end, Sarah, what would be your last thoughts for people that are struggling with depression or reviewers and understanding self-discipline, self-motivation? What would you say? What are you going to leave us?
I think it's been fairly clear all the sort of way through that routine is very key here because you can derive a sense of a comfort from it. And try and keep things small and manageable. So break down this big thing into small things that you feel capable of doing. So, for example, if you don't feel capable of cooking a 5-course dinner for your family or something, that's too hard. That's fine. Can you pick up the phone and order a takeaway? You're still feeding your family. You've still achieved the goal of feeding your family, but you haven't made it hard on yourself. You've made it easy on yourself. Try, set yourself a target of getting up at 8 o'clock every day. And even if you just go and make a cup of tea and sit outside in your garden and appreciate being outside in the garden, try that. Find something positive. Try and create a routine that gives you some sense of control. and normality.
No, it makes sense. That's so true at this point in time. That's so true.
And also, I think that one of the things you said, and I wanted to go back to it, but I didn't, but the idea is that once you are depressed and you understand what that depression is about, you said it so wonderfully. It's true. Once you're depressed, you're never immune to it. And it always comes back whenever you have high level of stress. But the wonderful thing about it is that once you're depressed and you've learned how to deal with it, that when it comes back again, you are able to manage it. And actually,
that's right.
You'll never go that deep again because you already know how the symptoms look like and you can stop it early on.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Once you've developed these techniques for dealing with it in the first place, then you've got those for the rest of your life. So once you've recognized that you are perhaps falling down that hole again, you can catch yourself and stop yourself before you get too deep.
Yes, very true. Very well done.
And like I say, I go back to my analogy. The gym was my life raft on the stormy seas, and I clung to it like it was my life depended on it. So find that positive thing, find that happy space, whatever it is for you, and really use it to give you some level of, again, comfort and positivity in your life. Focus on what you can do rather than what you can't do.
Very true. Very well said. Thank you, Sarah. You've been amazing. It's a great,
You're absolutely welcome. Look, I'm always happy to talk about this.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
I think you gave us a lot of good skills. I think tips. Yeah. So
look, guys, I'm always happy to talk anything to do with health. And health is not just physical health. Of course, it's mental health. And I'm actually really glad to see during this time there is actually a lot of attention being paid to mental health. I'm so glad for that because it just doesn't get talked about enough and it's so critical.
That's very true.
100%.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Next time we'll kick Dr.D off and we'll talk about rugby. Or something you guys practice out in Australia.
I better brush up on my rugby. We've got both codes, so yeah, I could probably have a discussion about that too. Look, I'm just a sports fan, you know. Like I say, I used to follow the American football quite strongly, so I just love sport, basically.
That's cool. We can talk about American football over rugby. I don't know anything about rugby, to be honest with you. but thanks again, Sarah, for coming back on. We'll definitely do this again in the future.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.